What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Better Baseball MLB DFS Playbook Show. My name is Justin Fensterman, hanging out here with John Impemba, the author of today's DFS MLB Playbook. What's going on, J.I.?
Fensty, it's been a little bit since you and I have had the opportunity to do a live stream together. I'm doing pretty good here. I was on the playbook today. You got a nice 7-game slate for everybody to kind of break down here. It's been a good day.
Absolutely, indeed. And hey, it could be a good day for all of you as well. Let's set some winning lineups. Join our chat here on the Better Sports Network app as we're going to be going over position by position. Going to give you some hitters and, of course, some pitchers as well. Make a lineup ourselves. So let's all pick winners here. You got suggestions? That's right. Questions or suggestions for players tonight for these 6 games? Hit us up. Now, John, I'm not seeing any crazy weather issues for any of these late 6 games that we have for the slate that we've got.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, it looks like it may rain a little bit here in New York a little bit later on in the game. So it's not going to cause any sort of significant delays, but they may have to play through some rain. Wind's also blowing in that game. So it could be a little bit of a boost for pitching in that case. You know, anytime wind's blowing in. If you're playing on the FanDuel slate, I guess that's the big one to kind of watch out for. Atlanta, Philadelphia, there's going to be some rain during that game. It's going to be wet. They don't necessarily know if it's going to be long enough to delay the game here, but obviously some weather concerns there. But obviously, if you're on FanDuel, you're keying in on that Austin Riley BVP matchup against Aaron Nola. 5 doubles, 5 home runs. And 40 at-bats against Nola here tonight. But it could be a little wet weather there in Philadelphia as we move up the East Coast.
We're going to give home run predictions, and this is my first time here on this particular stream. And I go to John. J.I. here, you're the captain here. Please, can I grab someone off the slate? And you said, nah, bro, no way. No
DraftKings only here, Fancy. Everybody knows Austin Riley's the home run call of the day.
I was going to take Acuna.
Oh, there you go.
But no, I can't. I'm not allowed, though, John. I'm not allowed, though. So we'll give our home run predictions a little bit later on in the stream. Looking at some of the totals, by the way, from these 6 games, I'm seeing on DraftKings Sportsbook, 7.5 for Mariners, Yankees. For the A's, Guardians, 8.5, 8.5 for Red Sox, Twins, 9.5 for Rangers, White Sox, 9 for Dodgers, Angels, and then 8 for Padres, Giants. And where do we start here, John? I mean, we got to talk about Shohei Ohtani because I don't know what the hell to do with this guy tonight. Because, I mean, do you think that the ownership, because we only have so many of these pitchers to choose from tonight, do you think that top ownership is going to be more on him? Or maybe saving a little bit, you got Castillo as well against the Yankees, though they were hitting early last night. Still overall, over the last number of weeks, haven't been hitting well.
Yeah, listen, Ohtani's a little bit of a interesting case because he has been hit lately in some of his more recent starts. Now against Texas the other night or a couple days ago, he was pretty good, but we saw him against Houston struggle up a little bit there. Now he's got the Dodgers here. We know how good the Dodgers can be offensively. A lot of talent with Freeman and Mookie Betts in that lineup here, but you know, he's also an elite starting pitcher. We've seen some starting pitchers rack up some high strikeout totals here. What I do think is that the Angels are going to be in a good spot maybe to win this game. Grove is a terrible pitcher. He's been lit up in all of his outings here. Lefty's been killing him at the dish. So I like Ohtani maybe from a win standpoint, but honestly, like tonight, I do find myself looking more towards Luis Castillo. Yankees against right-handed pitching over the last couple of weeks near the bottom of the league in WOBA against right-handed pitching. Without Aaron Judge in that lineup, they're just not the same team. So while they scored some runs last night off of Kirby here, whole different beast going up against the best pitcher on the Mariners rotation here in Luis Castillo. So for my money, if I'm building one lineup tonight, Castillo's in there over Ohtani for me.
And he's been getting the strikeouts too. I mean, with some of these pitchers that we're going to be talking about, the strikeouts are a little bit all over the place, not as much with Castillo. So, John, again, shorter slate, so we don't have much to choose from here. I feel like Castillo is a must.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you, especially, and this is a slate where there's enough value there. If you want to double spend, you certainly can. Otherwise here, Castillo for me feels like a lock. I like even that the wind's blowing in Yankee Stadium. Again, 10 to 15 miles an hour blowing in. Now, wet weather. Sometimes that impacts pitchers. Sometimes it impacts hitters, right? You get a little slippery on the ball. The curveball doesn't break as much. He loses a little bit of grip. And next thing you know, the ball's in the stands. But I'll be taking my money here for Castillo because I really don't like a lot of the top priced options on this slate. It's Ohtani, it's Castillo, and then I'm dumping all the way down into 2 value plays. I don't really care much for the mid-tier, whether it be Kopech, Darvish, or Blackburn here tonight. Fancy, do you have any interest? Or I even skipped over Gray. Do you have like any interest in any of the mid-tier here tonight?
You shouldn't have mentioned Sonny Gray to me.
Right.
Let me tell you about this guy, because I've been working on his outs props over his last few starts. And guess what, John? I'm going to have to come live with you because I can't bet on this guy anymore.
Yeah.
They not trust him. They don't want him to go deep. I mean, last game, I was looking at that pitch count. I was like, you got to be kidding me. He'd be 79, and that was it for him. I just can't trust Sonny Gray. The guy can't go 5 innings, or if he's not going to be given, let's say, 90 pitches consistently or at all, how do we can't trust this guy for 9,700 a night.
Under 80 pitches in 3 of the last 4 starts. And now he's going up against a Red Sox offense that has been on a wild hot streak lately. Ever since sweeping the Yankees, they've come into Minnesota, they've beaten up their starting pitching. And Sonny Gray has not been perfect here, right? Like, look at these recent outings. He's been giving up hits. He's been giving up runs. The walks have starting to come around here, and they're not leaving him in games too long. So, yeah, I am definitely fading on Sonny Gray. The Red Sox are going to be one of my favorite stacks here tonight, which is why I go down to Garrett Whitlock as like one of my favorite value plays on the entire slate here. He's just $7,000. His last 2 outings, 25 and 23 fantasy points going up against Colorado and the Yankees, allowed just 3 runs over 13 to 30 innings with 13 strikeouts. So now you're getting him in a spot here against a Minnesota Twins team that strikes out a lot. They don't really hit righties all that well, and the Red Sox offense is rolling. So this feels like a mispriced player to me on this slate with Garrett Whitlock, and he's where I'm looking to put some rostership on here tonight.
You're looking at some of your comments here. Say hello to the better boss here. He's in the chat with us here saying tough matchups for the Red Sox and the White Sox here. Chase 15 Beast also asking about the White Sox. Mark Pitt's also hanging out in that matchup because, John, we only have one lefty on the hill tonight, and it's in that matchup.
Yeah.
So when we start going over the bats here, I feel like we're going to be looking at feasting a little bit in that matchup, but we got to talk a little bit, and I know that you grazed over him very quickly, but someone like a Michael Kopech, I mean, the Rangers lineup just scares the living daylights out of me, man. That's what it all comes down to. Hashtag analysis, right? They scare the living daylights out of me every time they're on, for instance, when we put that graphic out at Fantasy Alarm, as we normally do, who's going to hit the home run for the night? How many Rangers options are we consistently seeing with that? Yeah. So I don't want to go near Kopech tonight either.
No, listen, he's been really good. But as I wrote up in the playbook here, why I'm actually in on the Rangers tonight is look at his recent outings where he's had success. Seattle, Miami, Detroit, Cleveland. Those offenses are nowhere near the level of offense that the Texas Rangers are. Texas Rangers rank top 5 in nearly every offensive category against right-handed pitching this season. So while Kopech has elite strikeout potential, this is going to be one of the toughest matchups he's had all season long here. And I'm in on the Rangers. Corey Seager was the cover of today's playbook for a reason, and the cover of today's live stream for a reason. He's been hitting over 400 for his last 10 games. You know, up and down that lineup, you know, all the way. Better Boston here saying Leotis Taveras. I mean, they have Leotis Taveras hitting 9. He's hitting 300 on the year, right? He's got some power and speed. I mean, that Rangers lineup's deadly. So I'm out on Kopech. I'm out on Sonny Gray. Yu Darvish is scary. The Giants are an offense that's really good against right-handed pitching. Blackburn, Cleveland's been one of the hottest offenses in baseball. So that whole mid-tier to me just feels like a complete no-go zone for me.
Darvish just hasn't been that good in general. I mean, how can you look at his numbers and go, hey, that's a guy I want to start for DFS tonight, man? Mm-hmm. You can't trust any of those numbers there.
Right.
When you look at the log. One more pitcher I want to ask you about, John. I want to ask you how you normally handle debuts here because we've got Gavin Williams on the hill for the Guardians tonight. Now, Matt Sells wrote a little prospect profile that you could find on fantasyalarm.com. And he wrote about what exactly this guy could do. And pretty much what he said in just a few short sentences, he's a strikeout machine.
Yeah.
And here's the deal with the A's. This A's team isn't the same streaking A's team anymore that was all of a sudden beating teams and winning a lot of games. Now, all of a sudden, they've fallen from grace a little bit. They've been losing games, and that average, especially when you look to see what they've hit over the last few weeks, has certainly gone down.
Yeah, listen, again, I mean, an absolute stud, I think, for a long time in the league, is making his debut tonight. You talked about the strikeout numbers for him here. He made 12 appearances between AA and AAA this year. 81 strikeouts in 60 in the third innings. That's a 12.1 K per nine. He had a whip under 1, so he's controlling the ball as well. And yeah, he's got the best matchup in terms of opponent here going up against the Oakland A's. That price point, again, $5,700 on a smaller slate. Like, you already expect kind of rostership to be a little bit more condensed here with only so many teams on the board. That type of prospect, the top 20 guy going into the league with the fanfare, with the price tag against the A's, like, everything should be going towards Gavin Williams here tonight. I think you're going to see a lot of Ohtani Williams, a lot of Castillo Williams combos here because he's so cheap. You can get the top pitcher and some top bats in your lineup when you plug him into your roster spot.
Yeah, not much on him outside of what they've seen when it comes to the minors. But now going for the debut tonight, you're in this again. It's the A's, so you're not throwing him out there against the Giants or anything like that. As we go to the catcher position now, John, let's talk about this because kind of like what you were saying, and this is how I feel. Tell me if I'm wrong. Plenty of people do. Will Smith is at the top of the charts here in price point. Love Will Smith. But then after that, you look at some of the other names, and I'm not really that into it. I'm trying to find maybe somebody else I like here, and it takes me all the way down to Patrick Bailey at 3,200.
Yeah.
And besides those are the two catchers that really stand out to me tonight.
Yeah, the biggest problem when you have a small slate is always the catcher position, right? Because there's only so many viable options if you don't get the right pitching matchups on the board here. So you have 7 games. So you don't really have it. Like you mentioned, there's no lefties. There's only one, and Martin Perez going up against the White Sox here. So it's like the lefty-righty splits that we usually like on guys, not really there as much. There's a whole bunch of righties. I went to Jonah Heim because he has 8 homers. 8 of his 9 home runs have come against right-handed pitching, but he's a much better hitter overall against lefties and righties. So, not the perfect split for him, but there is at least some power. Gary Sanchez will eventually get Sean Manaea in this game. Manaea is expected to be the long reliever for the Giants here tonight, so Walker will open the game, but there'll at least be a bat or two for Gary Sanchez against Sean Manaea, the lefty-righty split for him. You mentioned Sabal. I like that a lot going up against Darvish because Darvish has largely been a gas can for this season, and the Giants' offense has been pretty strong. But the guy that I've been going on here is Matt Tice at $3,100 going up against Michael Grove. Grove this year against left-handed pitching has been getting absolutely annihilated. And this is one of our favorite pitchers, catchers rather. James and I use the Angels catchers fairly often. Lefties against Grove this year have a .654 slugging percentage, a .385 batting average, and an 11-12 OPS on the season. He's allowed 3 of his 8 home runs to lefty bats here. So sometimes they hit Tice in the middle of the lineup. So we'll see what that lineup looks like here tonight. But if he's starting tonight, I'm just going to plug him in at $3,100 because there really isn't a better matchup for a left-handed bat on the board. It's one of the reasons why I'm pretty sad we can't play Ohtani the hitter tonight against Michael Grove because I would be willing to bet the home run on him here tonight. But I'll go with Tice, who's really the only lefty that the Angels can throw out there in my lineups for catcher.
That is what we're looking at when it comes to the catcher position. Again, a shorter slate. You have any questions about some of the players you're debating as you see on the screen, looking at DraftKings here. So at first base, John, this was the big question here, where I was going to go. And Freddie Freeman sitting there at 6,100. But again, because like I said to you at the top of the show, I didn't know exactly how to attack Ohtani. I didn't know whether or not to trust Ohtani as a pitcher, which we've concluded that we're not doing. So when it comes to Freddie Freeman tonight, who continues to get hits, I mean, he's hit the ball in his last 5 games. The problem is nothing too substantial when it comes to home runs and really RBIs during that time. A couple of 1 RBI games here, but 6,100, is that too rich for your blood considering the size of the slate?
He works in stacks. If you're looking to be contrarian tonight and you want to go up against Shohei Ohtani, I think going Dodgers is, will make sense on a smaller slate. This was my strategy the other night again when Texas went up against Ohtani. It was another smaller slate. And I'm like, listen, people aren't going to go up against Ohtani, and you're looking for that contrarian rostership boom here. No offense in baseball has more oomph than the Rangers. Well, the Dodgers are kind of right there too. So if you get Ohtani on an off night, like we saw when Houston batted him around a few starts ago, and the Dodgers go put up a bunch of runs, then you could have a whole bunch of under 10% Dodgers scoring as the highest team on the slate tonight. So listen, if you're stacking Dodgers here tonight as a contrarian play, I'm all in. It makes a lot of sense to attack top pitchers where you think people will be looking to roster them, and you get that at boost. So if I'm making one lineup, is Freeman in there tonight? He's not. But if I'm making 3 lineups, something in that range, and I want to get a little different, I have no problems going with the Dodgers here tonight.
Let's talk about their adversaries for the night, and that's the Angels and Brandon Drury for a second. Because, qualifying here at first and second, but he's on a little bit of a streak, and it's not a multi-game hit streak. It's a multi-hit game streak here of 4 at this point. But, and the difference is between him and Freeman, he's actually been producing some RBIs here. He's actually posted 6 in his last 4 games, and he had a 2-home run game a few days ago. But is this another option here? Because I like them. I like the price point tonight. You talked about Grove on the other side there. So I don't think, again, considering the size, 4,500 is bad considering he's hitting the snot out of the ball.
Yeah, listen, I think that it's a decent spot. Now, again, Grove against righties has been a lot better than he has against lefties, but righties still have a .533 slugging percentage against him. So he's giving up some power. He's given up 10 total extra base hits of the 19 hits allowed to right-handed bats on the year. So when those righties are putting the ball in play, they're usually going for doubles, home runs, and triples. So I don't mind Drury from that sense here, but it's definitely a better play against lefties. But again, on a smaller slate, I think we do want some exposure to the Angels lineup here tonight, and Drury's going to hit in the middle of it. So I definitely don't mind him.
Any of these other higher priced first basemen that you're looking at before we go to maybe a value tier here?
Yeah, maybe Nathaniel Lowe going up against Kopech again, just sort of getting yourself some Rangers exposure here. Kopech doesn't really have like a strong disadvantage against one slate or one split versus the other. He's been just kind of okay against everybody, but it's Nathaniel Lowe certainly has some power. He hits third. Seager's right in front of him to set the table. So if we're looking up at the top, I don't mind throwing a dart on Nathaniel Lowe here tonight.
We got to start talking about it, John. How we're attacking the lefty tonight when it comes to the White Sox here. You think as we go to a value, because this guy it's pretty much one of my favorite guys, because as I'm sitting there every night on Fantasy Alarm Bettercast on SiriusXM, it seems like Andrew Vaughn likes to make me happy when I'm on the air here. Because with Andrew Vaughn tonight, when I was looking at a value tier for him, was looking at him as a possibility. And I know we're talking home run predictions, he was a finalist for my home run prediction for tonight here. But he's hit the ball over his last couple of games here in this series. What are your thoughts on him at 3,100?
Yeah, it's not bad now. Our guy Mark in the chat always tuning in. He asked us, can Martin Perez do what Andrew Heaney did the other night? Again, another lefty starter for Texas going up against the White Sox. And I played Heaney that night. I liked the strikeout potential that he had in that matchup. But Martin Perez is not a strikeout pitcher. So that's the difference between those two guys, where Heaney can miss bats. Perez is generally pitching to contact here. And that worries me a lot more. So I'm not really in on Martin Perez, and therefore I'll be in on the White Sox here tonight. Guys like Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert, which we'll get to. But Andrew Vaughn, as you mentioned right there, a guy that has historically hit lefties really well, has some power upside, and now has hits in back-to-back games, including a home run. I like that call at $3,100. I think he'll be a good pivot off of Josh Naylor, who I think everybody will be in on tonight. We like the Guardians. They're one of the teams with the highest implied run totals on the board. And Josh Naylor, 311 batting average over the last 10. Wish we had more power out of him. No home runs during that stretch, but 10 RBIs. He's among the league leaders in baseball in RBI, believe it or not. So Naylor there at $3,600 going to hit in the middle of the lineup against Paul Blackburn. I think more people go there, which will make Andrew Vaughn a nice pivot tonight.
Other value first baseman. What are your thoughts here as we look at your Red Sox a little bit about Tristan Casas tonight with the way he's been hitting? And look, we talked about it's one thing when you're hitting and you're just hitting. It's another, though, when you're actually putting up the production on the back end, like the RBIs, for instance, because for Casas, he has 5 RBIs in his last 4 games here that he's been in. So what do you think about him tonight here going up against Mr. Gray?
Listen, I've been saying for about a month now that Tristan Casas is due to break out. If you go look at his StatCast numbers, he's basically 80 percentile or higher in like barrel rate, hard hit rate, exit velocity, all the good contact statistics you want for Tristan Casas. He's right up there. The problem is he strikes out a lot and he has a low batting average in balls in play for whatever reason. So he's been getting pretty unlucky, but he's starting to turn it around a little bit, almost 280 over the last 10, 798 OPS. Has a homer, mentioned has a 6 RBIs over the last 10 games, with a lot of that coming lately. If he's starting to turn it around against a Sonny Gray that's sort of on the downtrend here, again, I like the Red Sox. He kind of hits like 6th or 7th in that lineup. So if you're stacking Red Sox, you need to save some money to be able to fit in a Devers and a Yoshida or Duvall, whoever in that lineup here tonight. Casas is a pretty good way to do that with that home run potential.
Now, John, before we go to second base here, I want to remind everybody that you are the author of today's DFS MLB playbook, which you can find on fantasyalarm.com. And we got to mention how it's big time because we're all getting ready for our fantasy football drafts, our fantasy football draft guide now out on the site, which I think is great there, John, because we've got many promotions here where you can also try us out for a week. And for those that want to invest even a week with the free trial membership, boom, they see your playbook and they get ready to win.
Yeah. Again, right now it's go to fantasyalarm.com/all-pro. If you want to use promo code MLB50, that will save you 50% off the first 6 months. It gives you a 7-day free trial and it gets you the fantasy football living draft guide, which is live on site. Hard to beat a 7-day free trial, getting access to the draft guide, getting access to our premium Discord channel there as well. If you want just the draft guide, you can do that too. You can go to fantasyalarm.com/all-pro. Click the draft guide tab. It's $26.99. It's updated throughout the offseason. We don't do a print magazine here because what happens if somebody gets hurt? What happens if guys get traded? You don't know where Dalvin Cook's going to be, but right now there's a magazine in your store that was written 3 months ago that has Dalvin Cook currently still on the Minnesota Vikings and DeAndre Hopkins currently still on the Arizona Cardinals here. You have to that's now a fire paper, right? You're using that for your fire pits in your backyard, not here at Fantasy Alarm. We have the living draft guide updated as needed throughout the offseason, rankings, projections, strategy articles, you name it, we cover it. So go get your fantasy football draft guide today and ride with us throughout the offseason and help you dominate your fantasy football drafts.
I get it if it's like a yearly publication, like once a year, but when it comes to something like a draft guide specifically, I mean, in print anymore, man, there's just too many updates at this time.
It's already the moment it hits the printing press, it's too old. Right? It's too old. So, people like the covers. I like covers. I used to collect all the Sports Illustrated covers. Yep. Once had a dream as a child of having it be like wallpaper for my room. I had like hundreds and hundreds of magazines. And soon, once I realized how much that project was actually going to be, it didn't exist. But yeah, I had stacks and stacks of Sports Illustrated for kids, Sports Illustrated magazines, and I was all geared up for the covers, framed some of those things. But yeah, draft guides, print draft guides are a thing of the past.
The only time I didn't like sports cards were when they came in the Sports Illustrated for Kids magazine because they looked useless, John.
Do you know how much those are worth now, Fenstey?
Are they? Tell me they're worth a lot.
They are. The Tiger Woods, dude, the Tiger Woods.
Yes.
So the Tiger Woods rookie card that's in the Sports Illustrated for Kids, if you send that off to get graded and it's a PSA 8 or higher, those things go for $500 to $1,000 right now.
Mom, if you're watching, you'll see a bunch of magazines.
Right? Go find your SI Kids magazines and look at some of those cards. Dude, there's like a Tim Duncan rookie card in there that's worth a couple of $100. There's a Michael Jordan card in there.
Oh, those cards were so crappy.
They were, but now they're valuable. So go find them and see what you got going on there. Fancy, you're a big collector, so am I. So I bet you got some interesting cards there in your collection to recheck the value on.
Absolutely, 1,000%, man. Now you get a 10% finder's fee if I find anything of value in Sports Illustrated for Kids, 1998.
Yeah, go get it.
Yeah. Moving on to second base. This was the hardest position for me tonight, John. And I looked. We're going to give a little taste from what you have in the playbook here, but the name that I came up with was the name that you seem to come up with the same as well. Thairo Estrada here at 5,200 if we're looking to spend big tonight. And again, this goes back to what we were just talking about a little bit earlier, and that's Darvish isn't that good, and these Giants bats are here. And even though he's 5,200, he hasn't been getting you the RBIs, but tonight, could that be, from an RBI standpoint, you think, a bounce back spot?
What I like about Estrada here is that he has power and speed, right? 17 stolen bases, 9 home runs on the year, or another. If he gets on base, he can steal second, or he can hit the home run. Or the problem is that he doesn't really have guys on base in front of him too often. Levante Wade is the guy leading off, so there's not really guys generally for him to drive in from an RBI perspective. But he's had 40 runs scored on the year. A guy that hits righties really well, and like you mentioned, Darvish is struggling. So, on the season against right-handed pitching, has an 800 OPS, a 478 slugging percentage with 8 of his 9 home runs here. So, I'm big on Estrada here tonight.
Where else are you looking when it comes to second baseman, at least from the upper tier?
I mean, you can obviously go Simeon. Again, we're looking at the Rangers offense in general. Looking to spend up. He's right up there at $6,200, but I didn't have much as a top option. I kind of went down to the mid tier. Andres Jimenez obviously sticks out, hitting 6th. He's a guy that's starting to heat up with the rest of the Guardians offense as well. A guy that can steal some bases, hit for power. And then I went all the way down to the value tier here. And the Mariners are leading off Jose Caballero tonight. This is a guy that is an elite base stealer. He can go and get you a couple stolen bases in a single game. JP Crawford's out, so they're leading him off tonight. And Johnny Brito has actually struggled against righties this year, not lefties. So Caballero gets on base, right-handed bat, could steal second base with him with a righty on the mound. And then you look at someone like Julio Rodriguez and the rest of that Seattle lineup that hits from the right side of the plate. Could be looking to drive him in if Caballero gets on. He's got back-to-back games with hits. He had a 2 stolen base game not too long ago. So Caballero at $2,400. There's some good value on the slate tonight, and I definitely like him in some lineups.
Do you like him better than Andrews? And the reason I just, again, bring him up is because of the lefty matchup that he has tonight. And yes, he did hit a home run in his last game.
Yeah, Andrews homering last night off of Nathan Eovaldi, just kind of like the complete anomaly matchup. Yeah, you know what? Andrews is fine. I like that he has a dual positional eligibility there as well, because you can play both of the value guys if you want. Going into last season, it was definitely the right split. If you look at his overall numbers this year, nothing looks good. But last year, he was really good against lefties. He had that really hot streak at the end of the year. So if you're in on the White Sox, I don't mind it. You get a little wraparound stack there with Andrews hitting 8th, come back around to the top of the lineup there for the White Sox. So you can still kind of get driven in by, Roberts and Eloy and all that crew. But I would rather Caballero over Andrews, but I do think Andrews is someone that's in play tonight.
As we move on, any other second baseman that you want to highlight before we move on to third?
Not really. Is Rengifo a switch hitter? He is a switch hitter. So if Rengifo finds his way into the lineup again, just lefties have been so good against Michael Grove. I could see maybe a Rengifo play in an Angel stack.
You know what's funny? I was looking up these numbers on Grove a little bit earlier here, and we were talking about like the crappy numbers before here. But when you look at the strikeouts, that's the one thing that's like an anomaly. What, 2 of his last 3 starts had been 7 strikeouts, which I just found very interesting.
Yeah, but again, he was one of the top pitching prospects in the Dodgers organization. He just hasn't. Lefties are just doing so much damage against him. His overall numbers are largely trash, but he strikes out a lot of guys because righties aren't doing the damage. So he gets through the righties, no problem. It's just all of the lefties give him so much trouble, which could be a good thing here tonight because the Angels don't have a lot of lefties they can put in their lineup. So, I don't want to go Grove because I think you could see Ohtani just hit a 2-run home run, hit a 3-run home run, and it just blows up his night anyways. But if you're looking at the splits, he definitely can pitch to righties really well. It's the lefties that are giving problems.
As we move to third base, this to me, was a lot easier to kind of figure out with some of these names that we have up here. And a couple of the ones that stand out, obviously, you could look at Devers, but Jose Ramirez at $5K against Paul Blackburn tonight. Love Jose Ramirez, love what he's been doing. You're seeing a lot of multi-hit games. You're seeing him get RBIs in 5 straight games now. How do you ignore this guy at $5K?
You can't. Really hard to go ahead and just ignore him. 400 batting average over the last 10, 5 homers, added a stolen base, 844 slugging percentage. Blackburn again, has had some okay outings this year, but largely he's a gas can. He's someone that you shouldn't really fear when he's on the mound. So, I was, James will tell you when he was on the show, or those who have tuned in all season long know, I was probably one of the staunchest people against the Guardians offense all season long, but you can't be take stuck, right? You got to change as the information changes. And right now, they're one of the best offenses in baseball. So it's probably no surprise that their offense starts to roll as Jose Ramirez starts to kick it up as well. He's my number one third baseman on this slate. If you're on FanDuel, I'll play Austin Riley, rather. And Austin Riley is almost free over on FanDuel. It's like $3,000. Doesn't make any sense. So FanDuel play Riley, DraftKings play Jose Ramirez.
Thoughts on Justin Turner? Because with Justin Turner, he actually has 5 hits. I'm looking at his career versus Gray here. He has 5 hits and also has homered off of Gray as well here. I mean, you got Devers there. You got Turner. I mean, obviously with Turner on the cheaper side here, I got to put him in a lineup tonight.
Yeah, it's annoying that DraftKings took away his dual positional eligibility because he was first base, third base for like forever. And then all of a sudden they put him at third base, even though he's played less games at third base than he's played at first base. And he's just been the primary DH pretty much all year. So why they decided to take away the dual position eligibility, I don't know. It's a little frustrating because more often than not, you're going to play Devers over Turner. But if you're just looking at recent games, Turner's certainly the guy you'd rather have in your lineup. He's been better against lefties all season long, but really it doesn't matter at this point. He's been hitting lefties, righties, extra base hits, RBIs. He's been maybe one of the best finds for Chaim Bloom. Many people thought Justin Turner was probably washed leaving LA. And here he comes to Boston. He's got 10 home runs and 38 RBIs. So I like it. $4,100. I'm in on that one. The only other guy in the top tier that I take a look at here is Manny Machado because he has diesel numbers against left-handed pitching. And again, we are expecting at some point Sean Manaea to come into this game here for the Giants, which means you'll have some at-bats for Machado here against left-handed pitching. And on the year against lefties, he's hitting .377 with a .541 slugging percentage and a .956 OPS. So don't be fooled by Walker opening for the Giants and thinking you can't pitch, you can't hit some of these Padres guys here, because Manaea is going to come in and he's going to have a heck of a time here against Machado tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we're going to have to think, and we can't predict what order these pitchers come in. But with openers now being so popular, you can't just think in your mind anymore that you're going to be facing the same pitcher even 3 times through a lineup, even if it's a bad pitcher. So that's the problem, man. It's almost like you have to think 2 steps ahead, like you just did with that play, because otherwise I'm sure a lot of these bats would be ignored.
Yeah, 100%.
So with that, we go to the value tier here for third base. And for the value side of it, where exactly are you going to be looking to start?
Yeah, there's not too much value at third base here tonight. Jake Berger would be the one we take a look at here. Just ridiculous power numbers against left-handed pitching on the year. 16 home runs on the season. He's a guy that you look at him, he's got 27 extra base hits of his 43 hits. So over half of his actual hits have gone for extra bases this season. And again, Martin Perez, he's an okay pitcher. He's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but he doesn't really strike out a lot of guys here. So it could be a spot for Berger to kind of take advantage of him at $3,800. And then there really isn't any value. I mean, maybe some more lineups will come out. I mentioned Rengifo earlier. You could take a peek there, but knowing that a lefty is going to come in for the Giants here, Odor and Carpenter are kind of taken out of the equation here. Tyler Wade isn't all that special. He's cheap at $2,300. So I kind of think Berger's the lowest I'd go outside of a dart throw with Rengifo here tonight.
I mean, the good news is you have Turner priced to where he's at.
Right.
So it's not like you have to spend $5,000 plus. I mean, you should. I mean, Ramirez for sure. But yeah, I mean, you have options here when it comes to the mid tier, which is absolutely great as we continue going over tonight's 6-game slate that we have. As John continues to mention, if you are playing on FanDuel, you do get that weather impacting game between Braves and the Phillies. So make sure you're just watching the weather when it comes to that. Moving over to shortstop. What do you think, John? Is it Corey Seager's world and we're just living in it?
I mean, like I said, he's the cover of the live stream here today for a reason. Hitting 415 over the last 10, a 1270 OPS, a 780 slugging percentage, 3 homers, 12 RBI, 6 runs scored, 17 hits over the last 10 games, just rattling off the box scores here of Corey Seager. But I mean, there isn't a night where I don't find myself just wanting to plug and play this guy. He's hitting 367 on the season. Listen, everybody's giving Luis Urias all of his flowers for hitting 400, but he's just doing it with singles. Well, Corey Seager's a coming for that batting title lead here, and he's doing it with power numbers. So, yeah, give me Corey Seager at the top here. Again, Kopech doesn't really struggle. It doesn't really get hit hard against one versus the other split here. So there's no real obvious go-to, but more often than not, Seager's one of the top overall scoring players of the night. So he's also the second highest priced player on the slate. So he's not gonna be cheap. But as we've gone over, there's a ton of value tonight for just a small slate, especially at pitching. So it shouldn't be too difficult to get Corey Seager in your lineup.
Yeah, that's where you have to go. Where else are you thinking when it comes to any of these other shortstops that are on the slate? I mean, you've got Mookie Betts, obviously, with the dual eligibility there. But, I mean, is there anyone else that you're liking? I mean, Betts hasn't hit in his last couple of games. Yeah. But, man, he actually, if you look at it, John, no home runs and RBIs haven't been really happening for him over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he hits at the top of their lineup, so that's a little tough, too. As a leadoff hitter to get the RBIs, you need sort of the bottom of the lineup to either get in front of you or to homer and drive him in yourself. But, yeah, listen, this is one of the things you kind of live with Mookie Betts, right? He's only a 260 hitter since he's left Boston. He was almost a 300 hitter with the Red Sox, but since leaving them, the batting average has dumped down for him there. So you'll come through these peaks and valleys with him where he's the hottest hitter in baseball. He had those back-to-back games where he had 2 home runs in each. Now he's got a tough matchup against Ohtani. Again, if you're stacking against Ohtani tonight to be contrarian, you have to play Betts. You have to pay up for it because if he goes off and the Dodgers go off, you're going to kick yourself because what was the whole point of stacking against Ohtani if not playing their top guys? So you can certainly go there if you want. I like Seager over him, though, obviously. And then, again, another position where there isn't a ton of options where we go. I think Ahmed Rosario here at 30.
I was about to ask you if you're buying into him tonight.
Yeah. Again, how do you argue against a guy that's hitting 370 over the last 10 games, right? He has some stolen base potential, 8 on the year, even though he hasn't been too active on the base pass lately. He's $3,300. So the outside of Ramirez, all of the Guardians are cheap tonight.
Yeah. So a few times too, which is helping him for other areas in the power department that you don't get from him. So he's been scoring the runs, like you said, stolen bases, not much lately. Hasn't been really striking out, not multiple times. We were just talking about other players at the position who have been striking out more, but he has been getting hits. And we're talking multiple hits in 4 of his last 5 games.
Yeah, listen, he was really good when he was with the Mets, and he got moved over here to the Guardians. He's had a little bit of an up and down, career with them, but definitely a good spot. Just sort of given the way the Cleveland's rolling double-digit fantasy points in 3 straight games at 3,300, hitting second in one of the more, higher projected team run totals all the night. So I expect a lot of people probably to go to him, if not on Seager. I also think you can look at Ezekiel Duran here tonight at $3,100. He hits towards the bottom of the Rangers lineup, but a really good hitter. Nonetheless, there was some dual positional eligibility. And then you mentioned Elvis Andrus at second base, but this is a spot where I would play him. If you're not going Seager, Andrews could be a plug-in at short as just a zero, $2,500 punt.
Moving on to the outfield, John. I mean, you wrote the playbook here. Your favorite outfielder when it comes to the high-priced guys tonight?
I mean, there's obviously Tatis here again, more so looking for eventually that matchup against Sean Manaea. I think that's just a really good spot for him to go to and do some damage against. You can obviously go Trout if you want, even though I've mentioned Groves had a lot more success against righties than lefties this season. I do like Julio Rodriguez. As I said, Johnny Brito against right-handed hitters this year, a 554 slugging percentage allowed, an 888 batting average, and 6 of the 7 home runs he just allowed have come to righties. So, there's the way that he has been, hitting the baseball here, pitching the baseball lately. I know Rodriguez has struggled, but this feels like a matchup that he could break out of it. Get him in Yankee Stadium against a pitcher that's struggling against right-handed hitters. Maybe this is a spot for Julio to pop out of it. So, Tatis, I think Trout's fine. I like Julio Rodriguez. Yoshida had a 450-foot home run last night, so you can obviously stack Red Sox tonight if you can afford them. And then you got the White Sox guys, Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez there in the 4K range. I think you go to as well against Perez.
What about Garcia?
He homered last night, homered last night. Again, a guy that has some power. He generally has either the one or two top home run props for the Rangers. It's like him and Seager usually right there. So I don't mind it. Hits in the middle of their lineup. Again,
couple of RBIs off of Kopech.
Yeah, the way Seager gets on base, like he just sets the table for the guys after him to drive them in, because Seager's hitting doubles, right? He's not just slapping singles. He's hitting extra base hits to get on for these guys where he'll score on singles. So I don't mind it. Again, it's just that you look at the Rangers guys, Seager, Adolis, and Simeon are all 5,500, 5,300, and 64. So really tough to play all the top guys for the Rangers, but I definitely don't mind figuring out ways to get Seager plus a Simeon, Seager plus a Garcia, and then mixing in a value play with them.
I know the Yankees haven't been hitting well overall over the last number of weeks. However, Harrison Bader has been getting on base, and he's hit in each of his last 4 games. What are your thoughts on him going up against Castillo for 4K?
Yeah, I mean, you got to like where he is going in the lineup for them, right? There's just the power potential. Castillo is just really good. So I don't generally like going up against good pitchers, but as I mentioned, on smaller slates, 6 games like tonight, you got to find ways to be different if you're making a few lineups. And if all the rostership percentage is saying, hey, we're going and playing Castillo, then why not make a Rangers make a Yankees lineup against Castillo in case they do go and hang a bunch of runs on him. So definitely a potential for him there if you want to find a contrarian play here. Our guy Mark here saying Mikey Moniak leading off. He's a lefty bat, but Wallach is hitting 7th. So that's unfortunate that they don't have Tyson there. We wanted the left-handed catcher. Like I said, they're going with the righty catcher.
Dang, you were loving him tonight.
Sad, but you know what? Moniak leading off tonight. Again, a lefty bat. It will play better for your stacks there. $3,500, hitting 300 and 960 OPS. Do a little 2-man stack with Moniak and Ohtani tonight. Lefty bats against Grove. A pretty good combo there.
Who else are you looking at tonight? Because you and I were talking before about the White Sox bats for the outfield. I mean, Luis Robert?
Yeah.
Can you ask him? You look at the numbers that he has in this matchup here. You got to love him. He's got to be one of the favorite plays of the night.
Yeah, good numbers against lefties, a lot of power, and he's starting to come around. The oh my God, father, he can't play Ohtani. Yeah, I just remembered that he's pitching tonight. Big sad. But you can play Moniak, so that's fine. You can still use Moniak there as a leadoff guy. Maybe Ohtani drives him in. Robert there, though, a lot of power, 966 OPS, 649 slug the last 10 with the homers. Gets the lefty matchup there. So I do like I said, like Robert, like Eloy Jimenez tonight for the White Sox in their outfield.
Anyone else for the value tier before we start cooking up a lineup?
Yeah, listen, I think that there's some interesting values tonight. Estory Ruiz, we talk about just elite stolen base potential. Fancy last night to steal a base, he was minus 150 over the half a stolen base. Like, that is a ridiculous number. Every other guy that has a stolen base prop is plus money, and Estory Ruiz is minus 150. That's almost how automatic he is to steal a bag if he gets on here. 37 stolen bases already before we've hit the month of July. I mean, that is insane for him. So $3,200 if he gets on first, he's going to second, which is pretty much an automatic 5-8 points there. So
he's been hitting lately too, man.
Yeah, he was one of their better prospects, and he's starting to get on base, 3 doubles. He's not a home run guy, but got the speed that he has, some bloop singles turn into doubles, right? Like, and he's a guy that's not afraid to steal third. So, like, there's a lot of upside that I think, even though we like Gavin Williams here tonight, I like Jarren Duran here at $3,500. Leading off for the Red Sox. You talk about the way he's been hitting the ball lately. 478 with a 1234 OPS. Another guy with a lot of speed, 3 stolen bases over the last 10, 5 doubles. He does have some home run power in that bat, though he's only hit 3 on the year. So he's looking pretty good for some value down there. I also like Will Brennan here, $2,400. Again, another guy in the Guardians lineup that's really starting to hit the ball well. 282 average over the last 10, 270 for the year. a good spot for him to maybe keep his hot streak going tonight against Blackburn.
Before we create our own lineup here on DraftKings for tonight's 6-game slate for DFS MLB, let's give some predictions here, John. Let's talk about our home run call for the night now that we're done reviewing the positions here. Who are you looking at? Who's your call? Take your shot.
Yeah, I'm going to go Jose Ramirez. Again, just a guy that is just seemingly locked in right now, and it's just a good spot for him in this matchup here against Paul Blackburn, a pitcher that, again, just historically – really nothing special about him. Again, I know if you look at his numbers this year, he's got 3.48 ERA. He's got a couple more strikeouts and innings pitched. He's made 4 starts. But it's just a spot here where I'm just looking for for Ramirez to do some damage. So give me Jose Ramirez for the home run call here tonight.
I'm going to take Corey Seager. We've been talking about him a lot. He's been hitting a lot as well. And I'm thinking that he's going to be going yard, whether it's Mr. Kopech or someone in the pen. I'm thinking he's going yard tonight. The last time he did it was about 4 games ago. And with what Corey Seager's been doing, he doesn't have much of a sample size against Kopech. I'm feeling good about him tonight going yard for his 11th of the season.
You listen, don't need to sell me on Corey Seager. I'm all on that. You get plus 340 on him tonight, 2 with the home runs. Count me in.
Who are your favorite stacks tonight? Because I was trying to figure out how to do this. I mean, with the team that you're going to say, I also tried to figure ways to include a lot of the team that you're about to mention for your favorites.
Yeah, listen, we can certainly agree on the same plays here. No reason to be different for the sake of being different. I think it's the Guardians, right? Again, I'm not big on Paul Blackburn here. So getting the opportunity here to stack against him on an offense that's rolling right now, give me the Guardians as my top stack of the night.
What about the White Sox? I know that the Better Boss was saying it before in our comment sections, if we're reading your chat here, he was saying that they have a tough matchup here, but do you like the White Sox bats enough? It just seems like that we like a couple of their top plays, but also we've mentioned other players like Andrus as well, where you go all the way down. Do you think they're stack worthy tonight?
I do. I think you can play them. Again, there's guys in that lineup that just hammer left-handed pitching. They just do. And I know the numbers long-term this season haven't looked that great, but, I think that there's guys like we've seen to start to come along. Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert, now that they're healthier, they're starting to hit. Jake Berger, a lot of power against left-handed pitching here. So I do. I think the White Sox are a pretty interesting contrarian team here tonight to build a lineup around. Again, I'm not necessarily in on Kopech, but I do like the over in this game tonight. I think it was set, 8.5, 9 or something like that. So I do like the over in the White Sox and Rangers game.
Let me ask, while we're talking about that very quickly, and I bet this last night and I was sweating because the Yankees were scoring runs to start the game. What do you think about the under 7.5 in Mariners Yankees tonight?
My issue for that one is really just the way Brito pitched. Yeah. But if Castillo shuts down the Yankees, the Mariners' offense has not been good. So what's to say that they score enough to hit the over?
Right, and that's kind of because we've been talking so positively about him, and it's not like the Yankees have been hitting good over the last few weeks here. And I took it, and it was 7 last night. I took the under on that. But then the Yankees scored runs in the first couple innings, and I'm like, here we go. And luckily, that was pretty much it.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. So I do think you could go the under there. Again, the Mariners offense has sucked. So I think that's a good bet. I think Castillo shuts down that team. I don't know if the Mariners score 5 runs tonight. So give me the under for sure.
What about stacking your Red Sox tonight?
Well,
again, another area where we can find enough cheap guys on that team. You and I were talking about Casas before. Pick your third baseman. Obviously, you and I are on the same page with Turner over Devers here on DK. It just seems like there's a lot of balance what we could get and still be able to get other guys in for high price.
I agree with you 100%, and not a homer call here. And it's actually a little bit surprising because if you look at the implied run total for the Red Sox, Vegas doesn't really like them a lot tonight, but I don't really get it. I don't really understand why. Sonny Gray has not been very good, and this Red Sox offense has been really good. So, right now they have a implied run total of 3.5. The Twins have a run total of 4.5. So, Vegas thinks the Twins are going to maybe win this game, but I disagree. So, I'm going to go with the Red Sox over the 3.5 runs tonight for betting, and I like the Red Sox as a stack here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of great options here. You were rolling them off before, especially in that value sub 4K area too on DraftKings. Only so many options we could go with 6 games on tonight's slate. You ready to build that lineup there, John?
Yeah, let's get to it here, Fancy. We talked a lot about tonight about pitching, top end here. I think we're both in agreement that we are going to be rolling with Luis Castillo. I guess the question I got to ask you, good sir, is where do you think we should go with our SP2 tonight?
I want Gavin Williams.
On Gavin Williams, will roll.
I want the look. I know that we're taking a risk because he can get blown the hell up in the first first inning rather, and that could really be it. But at the same time, no experience against this guy. And if Matt sells his profile, which again on fantasyalarm.com, where he was just boasting about the strikeout potential and that he has a zillion pitches as well. I mean, again, it's the A's. I think that's where we go.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the strikeout upside against the A's is where we're at. Plus, again, Castillo, Williams, we have almost $4,300 a player to go to build our lineup here. It's there's definitely a lot of options. I'm going to do a quick refresh, see if we get some new lineup information into this DraftKings slate and see where we're at. So we got Castillo, we got Williams here. Moving on over to catcher. Again, I unfortunately the guy I liked isn't even in the lineup anymore. So where do you think we should be going at catcher here tonight? You liked Sabal. I liked Sabal against Darvish here tonight.
You know what? I like Sabal, but I also said Bailey as well.
Okay. Yeah, Bailey is not a bad option.
I'm fine with either one, man, and we save some money.
No, you get the lefty spot here for Bailey too. I'm good plugging him in. He's been hot. 333, 958 with a 583 slug. So that works. That one works for me. Now we're at first base here tonight. We got a 4,400 to play. I think we wanted to plug in Seager, right? We liked Seager, and we liked Jose Ramirez. So if we double spend up there, we have about 4K a play at these positions.
Don't hate me. Do we roll the dice and go with Casas all the way down at 2,700?
We could. If we go Casas at 27, we have $4,200 a player. I liked the value second baseman down here, Caballero, at $2,400. Did you have a preferred second base option? Estrada was the only other guy that I was.
Yeah, man, that was the hardest. You could tell from our show doc there. That was the hardest position for me to fill tonight, man. For me, It was pretty much him or bust.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Definitely low potential here, and we have some value in the outfield we can play. So if we use Estrada, we're still at 4K a play going into the outfield. I liked the Will Brennan. He was my favorite value outfielder tonight. Gives you a little bit of a connection with Cleveland here. So it's $4,700 for two outfielders here, Fensty. How do you think we're riding it out here?
Man, that's
we could look to spend up and then find another value. We could go with two mid-tier guys.
You know what? We were just talking about Bailey and Sabal.
Yeah.
What if we put both of them in? Sable's got outfield eligibility.
He does have outfield. I kind of like the Bailey play. One of them at catcher. I think there's better upside in the outfield. Like I said, I like Moniak. I like Duran. If we wanted to go down for some value,
Duran 3,100.
Who? Oh, Ezekiel. Yeah, Ezekiel Duran's 31. Jaron Duran is 35. Moniak 35. Who was your favorite spend up at the outfield position?
My favorite spend up, as we go back here very quickly, my favorite spend up was Lewis Robert.
Okay, we can do Robert.
You want to do Robert? I thought
and Eloy. We can get Robert and Eloy 48. Let's see. Can we get Andrew Vaughn here? There he is. Look at that, Fensty. On the dot, on the money, and no salary remaining. We have Luis Castillo and Gavin Williams. We have Patrick Bailey. We have Andrew Vaughn, Thairo Estrada, Jose Ramirez, Corey Seager, Will Brennan, Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez in there. We got two Cleveland. We got a two-man San Francisco stack. We got a three-man stack there. The 2-3-4 hitters of the White Sox tonight against Martin Perez. And then we got our cover boy of the live stream in Corey Seager here at $6,300. So hard to make a better lineup, sir.
No, it actually works out really well. I did not think you would want to go back to Robert there.
No, I'm 100% okay with that for sure.
Yeah, the pitching just seems like a no-brainer, which means it's probably not going to work out for us tonight. It just fits there with Castillo and the price point that we're getting on Williams.
Yeah, no, well, that's just the thing, right? He's so cheap that it's hard not to want to use him, and because he's so cheap, it allows us to get all these spend ups. We have 3 guys in our lineup over 5K. We have 1 guy over 6K. We got a $4,800 Luis Robert. So you're using these savings to get these elite hitters in your lineup, and they're in great matchups. So our guy here, the OMG father. I'm dumping this lineup in. Yeah, so am I. I'm 100% playing this lineup.
At first, I thought he said, I'm dumping this lineup. But I'm like, I guess he hates the lineup.
No, he's duping. He's duping this lineup. It means he's playing it. So, listen, I am 100% in on this. I'll probably have some variations of this one tonight, but this is definitely a lineup. I usually play the 3 maxes Fensterman. This will be a lineup that I find myself thrown into here tonight.
No, I'm going to as well, man. I mean, it was pretty good to put the puzzle pieces seem to fit right in. By the way, you want more DFS content heading into tonight's slate, make sure you go to SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Howard Bender, Jim Bowden on the Fantasy Alarm Show, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Then you get to hang with me and Adam Ronis right after that from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern as we take you through the night and take you to these games themselves while keeping up with the stats of these great lineups that we just built, John. And again, your playbook live on the site, fantasyalarm.com. And when you get that fantasy football draft guide, you want that free trial membership for 1 week, people get access to your playbook, sir.
Yeah, 100%. Got to sign up, fantasyalarm.com/all-pro. Use promo code MLB50, 50% off the first 6 months. It's $19.98 a month for the first 6 months. And now it includes the fantasy football draft guide. It includes the 7-day free trial. It includes access to our premium Discord. So, I mean, it's free, Fancy. Why would you not try something for free, right? So go sign up here today.
No brainer. Just like this lineup for John Impemba, I'm Justin Fensterman. Thank you all for tuning in. Let's cash. Let's crush our lineups. Let's win Wednesday.
Let's get it done, guys.